Hello, welcome to the Food That Makes Us, recipes that comfort and connect us. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of my favorite vegetable stews, a distant cousin of a ratatouille, I guess, but it's a Georgian dish called Adjapsandal. Really love the word Adjapsandal, it just sounds great, and from what I understand, it kind of means, things that are just thrown together. And there's even an expression in Georgia, you say like, oh, how are you? Oh, my life is a bit of a Adjapsandal. It's chaos, but this beautiful, delicious chaos. And this is what we're going to be making today. The most amazing thing about this stew is this herb paste that you add at the very end of cooking. So I've got wet garlic, but you can use normal garlic as well. And I've got tarragon, basil, dill, and coriander. And you can blitz it in the machine, but I think I'm gonna do it in the pestle and mortar. Just create this green garlicky paste, and then we're gonna stir it through all of the cooked vegetables, and it's going to be delicious. And when I saw this dish being made in Georgia, none of the vegetables were fried. And I don't know, in Caucasus, on my second cookbook, I kind of recommended to fry the vegetables, and now I regret it a little bit. And it's just like, you know what? Not everything has to be like super caramelized all the time. It's actually quite nice and comforting to just have those vegetables just kind of steaming and together without any of the super caramelized flavors. I think it feels fresher and goes better with the whole idea of those fresh herbs going through in the end. However, what I will do, I will only brown one element, and that's the potatoes. So I'm gonna slice them thinly, and I'm going to fry them in some oil while I prep the rest of the vegetables. And I have got a khmeli suneli blend. It's a Georgian spice. This one is actually a salt, so I'm gonna use it instead of salt, just to add a little bit more of a Georgian element to it. And it's got salt, coriander, fenugreek, and yellow flower, which is marigold petals. It smells amazing. It's really delicious and very kind of like a complicated, complex flavor and smell. This is from Georgia, but I'm gonna put it also in text and put a little link in. If you're in the UK, there's Vinegar Shed, and they sell these incredible spices, which are actually from Quebec in Canada, Épices de Cru, and they have some Georgian spices that are top notch. So you can actually get really good Georgian spices in this country, and I recommend doing it through Vinegar Shed. Okay, let's get started. So I've got my potatoes, and I am just going to, I'm actually going to slice a little bit of a cheek off it, just so it's nice and stable on the table. And then I'm going to slice it thinly. Use whatever potatoes you can get hold of, I think. It's not, nothing too specific. These are actually quite small jacket potatoes, but new potatoes would be really nice just to go with that whole, a new season kind of feel, or, but of course this can be done in the beginning of the summer and also in the early autumn with your last aubergines and last tomatoes, etc. One ingredient I'm actually missing today from the original recipe is green beans or runner beans. I couldn't find any organic ones, so I decided to just leave them out. But if you do, and especially if you grow them, just throw them into the mix. They just add a really nice texture, and again, even more freshness. Okay, so the potato is almost done, and I'm literally just I'm not gonna, layer them carefully or anything like that. I'm gonna heat up the oil. I'm just gonna chuck them all in and keep them there sizzling, and then I'm just gonna come over from time to time and just give them kind of like a little bit of a swoop with a spoon. I don't need them all to perfectly fry or caramelize. I just want to add a little bit of that fried potato flavor. I'm gonna use sunflower oil, but you can use olive oil. That's absolutely fine. So put a bit of oil in, kind of like maybe 4 tablespoons actually. I'm going to wait for the oil to heat up a little bit, and then I'm going to chuck the potatoes in and put a little bit of that Georgian salt in with the blue fenugreek. Okay, so literally scooping these potatoes, putting them in. Just going to break them up a little bit with a spoon, I think, just to distribute them a little bit around the oil. And gonna grab my, so this is salt, it's not just spice, so I'm going to go quite carefully with it, but I am going to season, you know, each step of the way. So each vegetable I put in, I'm gonna put some seasoning in. Look, it's beautiful already with these little spices there, and the smell is gorgeous. Yeah, you good? So yeah, just, and then I'm just gonna leave it. I'm just gonna leave them for the bottom layer to start caramelizing, and then I'm gonna come in and do a little swoop. Okay, the aubergine, you can do kind of rounds, or yeah, I think I'm just gonna go for rounds. Not too thickly, not too thinly. And you know, the aubergine will absorb all of the flavors, especially once we add that paste at the end. Once it gets to this really thick bit, I'm just gonna cut it in half and do half moons, just so I don't get too much of a difference in size. In this case, I want everything to be kind of like uniform size, really, as much as possible. So I can see a little bit of, that hurt a little bit. Okay, cut. Alright, I can see little bits of potatoes actually browning quite nicely. Getting stuck a bit as well. So I'm just going to lower the heat a little bit and give them a little swoop and continue with my veg prep. And the same with this aubergine. Then with the courgettes, I'm gonna cut them in half, and I'm actually, I'm gonna cut them into those chunks like I did with cucumbers in my spring salad video. So just kind of like cutting them into this kind of shape, which is quite nice, I think. So again, the courgettes will act like little sponges, and they will absorb all of the flavor. So just randomly cut it like this. Get a little bit of this bum off. But you know, if you grow your courgettes, and you probably know this if you grow your courgettes, but even these bits, kind of like this bit of the stalk, I would use because it would still be so fresh. But if they're from a supermarket or, you know, a market and they look a bit dead, then I cut them off. Okay. And actually I'm gonna, you know, as soon as I cut everything, I'm gonna start layering it in. So the potatoes are nice and how I want them now, pretty much. So I'm just gonna leave them there to sizzle quietly while I finish cutting these veggies. Okay, and now for the peppers. Again, we're just going to clean them up and just cut them up however you want. It doesn't really matter. The shape, just kind of a random shape, I think is nice. I'll show you now what I'm gonna do. So got rid of the seeds, and I'm gonna quarter them like that, and then again lengthways, and then I'm just gonna cut them across like that. So kind of just random rough chop, I guess, is what I'm going for here. It's roughly the same size if you can, but you know, it doesn't really matter. Okay, and with the onion, just cut it in half, and then you know, you can do it into half moons kind of thing, but I like to go this way, lengthways, kind of a bit of a Middle Eastern way, I guess. But do whatever you like. Just you know, just quite thinly as you can, really. And do the same with the second one. And we're nearly there. We're just going to layer, season, wait for them to cook. The tomatoes are nice and done. And actually, if you have large and juicy tomatoes, will be better. If you don't have any fresh tomatoes that taste good, then just use tinned. That's absolutely fine. But I've just had some of these cherry ones, so I've just cut them randomly, you know, in half. And that's it. We're ready to layer. Let's layer it up. Some potato got stuck. I just, it's nice crispy bits. It's all good. I've just dislodged them, and the potato is just gonna stay on the bottom. And I am layering it, but at the end we're going to kind of like mix it all through together. So it's not strictly necessary, but I just feel like we'll leave the potatoes at the bottom, and then we'll just kind of we will layer it up so it whilst it cooks, the elements are kind of just interspersed, like intertwined. So we're gonna go on top of the potatoes. We're gonna go aubergine, and then a bit of onion, and then we're gonna season. So again, if you really want a flavor of caramelized onions, you can always cook it first, but I quite like onions that have been cooked like this, just cooked in the vegetable juices. And then we're gonna go with our courgettes on top, and then a little bit, tiny bit more salt. And at some point I'm gonna stop using this, maybe up to the first layer, and then just use normal salt, just because I don't want to overwhelm it with all of the spice flavors. I want to taste the vegetables as well, because they're in season now and they're very good. And then I'm just gonna put the pepper in. Okay, and again, just a little bit of this, still going with this one for the first layer. And then our tomatoes. I'm just gonna put the tomatoes over. And again, just a little bit of this spice. This is gonna be so tasty. And then from now on, well, I think we're just gonna go in with the rest of the aubergine. Oh boy, I feel like maybe it will kind of go down in the end, but at the moment I might just leave a bit of this aubergine out. So that was 1.5 aubergine instead of 2, which is fine. And then, judge it, how big your pan is, etc. And then I'm gonna put regular salt, just a little bit. Then I'm gonna put the onions in. Just gonna put all of them in like that. And then a little bit of regular salt again. And then my courgettes, the peppers, salt, and then the tomatoes. And actually I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of water. Just gonna put a little bit of water in here, put more salt in, just to kind of get the juices going a bit. 150 mils, I think. And then we'll just put it in like that. And we're gonna close the lid. And I know, at the moment it's like, oh, it's a little bit kind of plain, and what is it gonna taste of? But remember, we've got all of those super strong herbs and garlic going in at the end, and the cooked vegetables will absorb those flavors. It's going to be absolutely stunning. So put the lid on and wait for it to kind of soften and cook and go down a bit. That's it, on a medium-low heat. So with the Adjapsandal stew, I actually was doing loads of things, and I thought, oh, if it's going to keep cooking on the stove top, it might burn at the bottom. So I've put it into the oven at about 180 degrees, and I had it with the lid on for about 40 minutes, and then I've taken the lid off, and I'll show you what's happening there. So it's looking really nice. So we're ready for the paste, and I've got this really lovely young garlic, but you can use any garlic that you like. And because it's young, it's not so strong, so I'm gonna take about 4 cloves. But if it's a regular kind of like older garlic, maybe use, to taste. If you really like a garlicky taste, but I think 2 cloves would be enough. So I'm just gonna get rid of these little skins all around it, and then rough chop it, and then put it in the pestle and mortar with some salt. And we're gonna bash the garlic first, and then we're gonna add the herbs and bash it with the herbs, put it through the stew, and we're done. We're gonna have a little taste. And I think it'll be extremely delicious. I love tarragon. It's quite strong though, so I'm putting less of it than all of the other herbs. Just for a little hint, because we still want to taste those delicious vegetables. And you know, you can gauge how much of these herbs you want to put in, especially if you are growing your own vegetables, then maybe put a little bit less just to give a hint of herb rather than in your face kind of thing. And then with the basil, I'm just going to rough chop it like this, and actually through the tarragon a little bit too. Basil stems are going in, and the same with the rest of the herbs. So that's a little bit of coriander, dill. So all together we've got coriander, dill, basil, and tarragon. But you can use any combinations that you like. You can even add to this, you know, a little bit of chives or something like that. And then I'm just gonna put the herbs in, and I'm just gonna bash, like a pesto almost. Making sure that that garlic is kind of nicely. And if you're not, you know, so Joe is not very good at tolerating raw garlic, so for him I'd probably kind of put the paste through and then just boil it off for another 5 minutes just to kill that enzyme that makes him feel sick. But for myself, and I love the kind of raw garlic flavor and I can take it, I would literally take what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna take the stew out, pour it through and serve it straight away. So I'm just gonna go into the oven. Great. So look, yeah, none of it got stuck at the bottom. And I know we've been layering, but actually we're gonna put the herbs through now. So I've given it a little bit of a stir, and then we just put this delicious herby, garlicky, aromatic paste through, just like that. And when it hits that the hot vegetables, it just really becomes alive. So I'm gonna put it in, I'm gonna taste it, and if the salt is good, we can serve it, as always, with a big piece of crusty bread to mop up all those juices. Fantastic. Okay, let's taste it. So I'll take a piece of courgette, I think, and a little bit of this paste. Guys, it's incredible. Georgians really know their way around vegetables. It's fantastic. It's just incredible. That herby, garlicky paste at the end, and all of the vegetables which haven't been browned apart from the potatoes, but it's so full of flavor and it's also so fresh. And I bet you'll be really nice eaten at room temperature or even cold.